Guys, this is Billy from Discovery. Today we're going to talk about journal entries, how to create and maintain manual journal entries in Nacreous. The first thing you need to do is navigate to your Manage GL Journal Entries Springboard tile. The tile and the functions within will only be available if you are authorized to them, so you need to make sure you have those authorizations before you proceed. So when you click that tile, it navigates us to the Manage GL Journal Entries NGV. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the configuration button here. This won't be available to everybody. This is kind of our tailoring NTA where we set things up. So only authorized users will see this. So if you don't have this on your screen, it's okay. You can still create journal entries. This is just where some of the tailoring takes place. To start a new journal entry, what we're going to do is we're going to hit the Create button right here. This opens up our NTA. So on this first screen is our journal header tab. We're going to leave entry type as regular. We'll talk about this drop down a little bit later as well. The journal reference, so depending on your tailoring, you'll either manually key something in or you can hit the assign button or you can do both. That depends on your tailoring. I'm just going to hit the button here. We have journal notes. This is where you're supposed to put something a little bit more informal in if you have something more casual you want to say. And then journal entry description is supposed to be something a little more formal, a little more specific. Whatever you put in here can flow right into the general ledger as the description on this journal entry. So you can put something in here, journal notes. If you want it to be the same, you don't really care. If you just hit tab, it'll automatically bring whatever you type into the first one down into the second one. If you want this to flow over to the journal entries tab and into the general ledger itself, you can tick on this box here. The next thing we have is the reference date. It's going to default to today's date, but you can change it to whatever date you need. The next thing we have is the accounting period that we're going to post to. So this is a drop-down menu. This will show you everything that is open and future for your company. So you just pick your accounting period. The default branch will come from whatever your tailoring is in that configurations button here. This is the branch that will default on the journal entries tab. You can change it to whatever branch you need, or it might be multiple branches, in which case you don't care. If you want to force it to always use that branch and you don't want to be able to change it, you can go always use default branch, and then it kind of, you don't have to enter anything into that at all because it's always going to use branch 1 or whatever you have here. Auto reverse next period is how we do our accruals. So if you have an entry that is going to go into September and then you want it to automatically reverse out in October, you can do that. You just take this on and it'll create both entries for you. The reversal one will be the exact same journal reference, but it'll have an R at the end. So that's how you'll know that it's the reversal of it. So you can track them together and know which ones belong with each other. We have auto assist. So this is a way our system finishes off an entry for you. So if you tick this on, if you put $100 in the debit column, it will know to automatically put $100 in the credit column. It always tries to finish off the entry. So if you have a simpler journal entry, that can be very handy. If you have a very complicated one, sometimes it's not that handy. So you can tick that on and off. Whether this defaults to on and off also comes from our tailoring up here. Entry methods, so we have the ability to do debits, credits. So there's two separate columns and you can enter directly into those columns. We also have a single column called the amount column. So you can enter your amounts into that column and it will automatically put them in the correct column, so the debit or credit column. So whatever you're more comfortable with. If you're more comfortable with the whole debit credit situation, you can do that. If you're not comfortable with that and you want to enter everything into a single column, you can do that. When we choose single column, the use natural sign becomes tickable. Before it was grayed out. This is something that you set up in your chart of accounts, and you can set up each GL account to have a natural sign associated with it. And then the system, when you're using the single account, will know, okay, when I put a $100 debit into this, even though it's a debit, the natural sign is credit, so I'm going to put it in the credit column. So it kind of does that work for you. This is really good for people who aren't super familiar with accounting and maybe need a little bit of help with that, maybe aren't super aware of how the trial balance works and that sort of thing. So that's what these were designed with. I'm going to switch this back to debit and credit, I think. The journal currency is here. You can switch it to a different currency, and our exchange rate that we're going to use on this journal is going to be from right here. If you switch it, it should pull to the today's date exchange rate that you have set up, but you can override it here if you need to. So the next tab we have is our intercompany tab. This should only appear if you have multiple companies and you have intercompany set up for those companies. If you don't, this tab can be hidden from you so you never have to see it. Really all you do is tick this box on, pick what company you want, and then if there's an exchange rate necessary, you can set that up as well. So super simple tab. If you don't have intercompany, you shouldn't even see it. The next column is our journal entries column. So this is where we're going to put our GL account and our amounts. We're just going to hit the drop down. This should show us only active GL accounts that allow posting. So none of your headers should show up in this drop down. It's got the branch that's from our default branch that was on the journal header. The amount column, because I have my default set up to be debits, credits, is not going to be accessible. If I use the single column option on the journal header, this is where I put my amounts. So I'm just going to put in my debit. So my credits go here. You don't want to put the same on the same line. So any credits go on the next line. You can't have a debit and credit on the same line or you're going to get an error. The journal entry description. So whatever you put in the journal entry description on the header, if I ticked that little box, it would have flown to here and I would have had that journal notes description here. I didn't tick that box, so it didn't flow here. So I can put something else. If you forget to put something here, it's just going to use whatever the journal entry description is anyway. So if you meant to tick the box you forgot and you didn't put anything here, it's going to use that journal entry description anyways. So it's okay if you forget. This is our company. The company will only be accessible if you have intercompany on, and then you can pick your other company when you're doing your intercompany journal entry, but otherwise the company will just be defaulted to whatever you're working in. So in this case, I could put another debit in if it's a more complicated one. I'm just going to put the other half of the entry into the credit column here. More text. Okay, I have my running totals down here at the bottom. They're balanced. The next tab is our import errors tab, and we'll talk about importing journal entries in a minute. So my options are to now go ahead and complete create. When I hit complete create, if I don't have any errors, it'll be in the NGV in an available to post status. If I don't want to proceed with this, if this is a mistake and I just want to scrap it, I can go cancel create and it will scrap it. And if I want to keep going and save this, but I need to check something out before I continue, I can go suspend create and it will create it and put it in a suspended state here. I'm going to go ahead and complete create. When you hit complete create, it brings up this, we call it a USF. If I hit return, it's just going to take me back to the NTA. If I hit continue, it's going to go ahead and check it in and I will return to the NGV. If I wanted to go ahead and post this, I would tick this box on. Right now it's saying I'm not allowed to, which means I'm not authorized to post, basically. So if you have this tick box and you can't click it, it means you're not authorized to post journal entries. So I'm going to go continue. So here's my entry here. It's an available to post status. I can come in and do a right-click change to access that again if I want to go ahead and post it later. So let's just go through some of the right clicks here. So right-click view will open up the entry in a view-only status. So I can't make any changes. I'm just going to look at things basically. I'm just going to cancel it here. So right-click view is just a view only. Right-click changes how I'd access it again if I needed to post it or if I needed to make any changes. It's just going to open up the NTA again. And then I can make any changes I need to descriptions, amounts, journal entries, whatever. And then I can go complete change, or I can cancel it if I need to. If I'm not sure about my changes, I can still suspend it. I'm just going to go cancel because I didn't actually make any changes. We also have copy. So if this was a journal entry that you did routinely and you wanted to just copy it because that was easier and you don't have to fill everything out again, you can go right-click copy. So it'll open up the NTA with all kind of the same information. You're going to need to give it another journal reference and pick which period you want to post it to. But if we go to the journal entries tab, everything that was in there before is in here again. You could make any changes or additions that you needed. And then once you're good, you can go complete copy. So if you have a journal entry that you need to do routinely, you can do a copy. The next one you'll notice is copy to journal. So we have the ability to create a recurring journal entry. If we do a create, and then on entry type, instead of leaving it as regular, we do a drop down and go to recurring. We can set up a recurring journal entry. So maybe this one is for rent. So building a rent. Okay, so in this case, we don't have to select a posting period because this is just basically a header that we're creating. I'm going to go journal entries, pick some journals we can go to. This is a debit of. So I just picked the advertising GL account. I know that doesn't make sense. Let's see, this is coming out of the bank. Okay, so because I'm leaving these blank, it's going to use whatever I have on the journal header. So I'm just going to go complete create for my recurring. And continue. So the entry type column here, reg means that it's a regular journal entry. And if we go down to the bottom, that's where our recurring journal entries will live. So you could set up a filter just on these and set up a DE view for yourself with all your recurring journal entries. So these ones, RCR, are recurring ones. So you'll notice they don't have a date or an accounting period here because they're just basically the header of it. So if I want to create either the text or rent recurring journal entry, I just do a right-click copy to journal. Okay, and then I'm just going to give it a reference, pick the accounting period we want it to do. The currency, it's defaulting to Canadian. You don't set that up on the recurring, so if for whatever reason it needed to be a different currency, you would pick it now. And then the journal entries and stuff should be in here and waiting, so you can make any changes you need to, and then just complete copy when you're done. And you could go ahead and post this right away. I'm just not posting things, but you can go ahead and tick this on and post things if you need to. So here it is at the top here, building a rent. So that's how you create a recurring journal entry and how you use it. That's what the right-click copy is for. We have void. So if you want to right-click void, it'll open up the NTA. You'll go complete void. You can only void ones that are in available to post status. You can reinstate one. So if one's already in voided status, you can go ahead and right-click reinstate, and it'll reinstate the entry and turn it back to being an available to post status. If you want to go ahead and delete it, you don't want it to be an entry anymore, you can delete it. You can only delete voided entries. So the status here would have to be void, and then you can right-click delete. It will open up the NTA and you'll just hit complete delete. The resume suspended transaction is when you've chosen to suspend create or suspend change or suspend copy. You'll know something's suspended because it has these little locks here. These mean they're suspended. There is suspended transactions view, default view, if you're wondering about them. So the suspended create or resume suspended transaction right click will only work on suspended transactions. So anytime you see those and you need to check it in, you're going to go resume suspended transaction to finish it up. The cancel suspended create and complete suspended create allow you to cancel this. So if I wanted to cancel this, I could. If I wanted to complete it, I could. It also, these two options are able to be used on multiple entries. So if I have several suspended transactions and I click them, when you do a right click, your only two options are going to be to cancel or complete. So the system will go ahead and try to cancel them all or complete them all. It will only complete them all and change them from not available to post to available to post, or if there are no errors. If you have errors in it, then you're not going to be able to do it. You'll get a message saying that's not possible. So that's what these are for. These are only for suspended transactions. We have an expanded view. So this is a separate NGV. If you do a right-click expanded view, it's going to filter for what the expanded view on this specific journal reference. We also have the expanded view button up here. This will take you to the expanded view NGV, and that shows you the expanded view for all of our journal references. So every journal that we've done in Nacreous. The audit NGV, which is our next right click, is an NGV that shows you the creation and modification, deleting, voiding, all that sort of thing. Who did it, when they did it. It's a way to track, who did what, when to this NGV. If you do a right-click audit, it's going to take you to that NGV for that specific journal reference. If you go to this audit button, it'll take you to any change that's ever been made in this view, basically. So view journal entries. This will show us the journals that make up this reference. And it shows us the entries here in this NGV. We also have the view GL. So this shows the journal entries actually in the general ledger. This will only appear, there will only be entries on the right-click view GL if you've actually posted it. So it has to be in posted status. These ones here are in available to post, which means I haven't actually posted them to the GL. So if I did a right-click view GL, that screen is going to come up blank because I haven't actually posted them to the GL yet. When you do a post, you get a posting report. So if you would like to reprint the posting report on already posted entries, you can go reprint posting report. This will send a copy of the report to your file system manager where you can see it. This again only works on things that have already been posted. Because this hasn't been posted yet, these ones wouldn't work for those. And then the final one here is review import validation. So this has to do with when we are importing our journal entries and if you need to review error messages. So to import a journal entry, you're just going to click this import button. You're going to select the file. I'm going to bring up the file. So our journal entry import file looks something like this. What's required of you is kind of put in a comment at the top. The orange ones are must-haves. The blue are voluntary columns. So you need to put an import reference in, your description, the GL account, the branch, whether it's a debit or credit, the notes, and then the date, the posting period, currency. All of this stuff really only needs to be put on the head record ID. It doesn't need to be put on every column. So you're going to fill out this Excel spreadsheet, and then on here I'm going to select this spreadsheet. So I selected it, and then I'm just going to go ahead and upload. If there were errors with your sheet, you could get an error right there. So this is the record I just created, the BMIMP25. So I have it set up to automatically, if there are no errors, put it in an available to post status. If there had been errors, or if I had my system set up a little bit different so that it did not automatically check it in, then it would be not available to post status, and I would have to do a right-click, resume suspended transaction, and take a look at it. If there had been errors when I did my resume, they would have appeared in that one tab, so import errors. So if I had errors with it, I could go to the import errors tab and resolve them here if it's something wrong with the GL account or branch. And it'll also show on that right click. So you can see before you even really go in, review import validation messages. So when you're doing imports and there's an error in it, you can resolve them using that right click or going to the tab to fix things up. And I think that's pretty much it for journal entries. Thank you for your time today. And if you have further questions or need some help, you can contact Discovery's implementers using the above email address.